Hello, my name is Jessie Hilger and I work for the NCAA Eligibility Center. I'm here today to discuss your path to the student-athlete experience. There are not many things that we can control in life, but one thing you can control as a student are the grades that you earn and ensuring you take the appropriate courses to try to become eligible to participate in sports at a Division I or II college or university. I do want to say that I will accept questions, but we'll hold those to the end. If you have questions during the presentations, please feel free to type them in, and I will get to them once we conclude the presentation. Thanks. So let's get started on your path. What we're going to talk about today are your steps to achieving your eligibility, the initial eligibility requirements, your sports participation you have to report to us in your registration, and helpful resources in your journey along the way. Let's get into your steps to achieving your eligibility. Freshmen and sophomores, what should you do now? First, start planning now by working to earn the best grades possible. The other thing that you want to do is know that the NCAA cannot accept every course that you take in high school. We only accept certain core courses. Where can you find that list of courses? Well, you can go to our website, eligibilitycenter.org, which is where you will register with us. But there is a resources tab where you can look up your specific high school's list of NCAA courses. And it will show you from your high school exactly which courses we can accept. And those are the only courses we will use in your evaluation. As far as registering on that website, eligibilitycenter.org, try to do so in your sophomore year. But there's no time limitation. You can actually register at any time, even after you graduate from high school. The other thing to note about courses is that after you look at the list of core courses and you feel like maybe you're falling behind, feel free to take courses in summer school sessions or during the year prior to your senior year. And we'll discuss in a minute why it's very important to take them prior to your senior year, especially for those of you wanting to play sports at the Division I level. Here's what the website looks like where you will register. You'll click in the upper right-hand corner to create your registration. You'll see the Resources tab where you can access your list of NCAA courses and other helpful information. There's also a Sports tab that you'll see at the top. If you're not really sure which Division I or II schools offer your sport, you can go to that Sports tab, find your sport, and view which schools offer your sport. For Division III, students do not have to go through this process. Division III handles their own eligibility requirements themselves. So if you're interested in Division III, talk to that Division III institution for further information. Now juniors. Juniors, as you're taking the SAT and ACT, or both, remember to put the NCAA's 4-digit code of 9999 as one of the score recipients. When you register for the test, there will be a section where you can enter 4-digit college codes. Again, be sure to enter the NCAA's code of, what is it? 9999. The other thing to know is you can take the test as many times as possible, and we encourage you to have all of those test scores sent in to us. If you forget to add our code of 9999 when you register for the test, you can either add it on the day of the test, or after you take the test, you can contact SAT or ACT and ask them to send your scores to that very special code 9999. The other thing juniors want to do is double check that list of NCAA courses for your high school and ensure that you are continuing to take those very important courses to help you become eligible. The last thing juniors are responsible for doing, of course, registering, but then once you register, contact your high school guidance counselor and ask them to send us a transcript covering 9th through the end of 11th grade year. That transcript must either be sent to us through mail or an acceptable electronic transcript service like DocuFide or Naviance. We have others that we accept as well, but the transcripts cannot be sent through fax or email. Now, seniors, very exciting time in your life, but your journey's not over yet. What seniors should look out for is, as you continue to take the SAT or ACT as many times as necessary, ensure you have those scores sent to our code of 9999. Also, seniors, continue to make sure that you're checking your high school's list of NCAA courses and taking the appropriate courses to become eligible. And then graduate on time in 8 semesters or 4 years. This is so important for Division I, and in a little bit we'll talk about why it is so important for Division I. Seniors, also, when you register with us, you'll have a My Planner page where you can check your status and eventually see whether or not you're eligible. So throughout your senior year, frequently visit the My Planner page to see if there's anything missing or needed. You have a task list, and if we need something from you, we'll email you and communicate that information in your task list. The other thing seniors want to do is review your sports participation responses. Basically what that is we ask you for all of your sports participation information from outside of high school. This is also known as your Amateurism questionnaire. So during your senior year, on April 1st, if you're planning on enrolling in a Division I or II school in the fall, we will send you a reminder to finalize your Amateurism responses. That locks those answers in and allows us to review that information and render that decision. The NCAA Eligibility Center makes 2 decisions on your account, one for your Amateurism questionnaire, and the second one for your academics, your core courses and your GPA and ACT or SAT test score. Now, if you're a senior and you're planning on graduating early, say in December, and enrolling at a Division I or II school in January, you can finalize your Amateurism as of October 1st of your senior year if you decide to be an early graduate. Last thing, seniors, once you graduate, ask your high school to send us one more transcript with proof of graduation. Proof of graduation is basically just the graduation date printed on your transcript. Again, those have to be mailed or sent by an acceptable electronic transcript service and cannot be faxed or emailed to the Eligibility Center. So let's get into the requirements you have to meet to become eligible. So I mentioned that you want to make sure you're taking courses off of your NCAA's list of approved core courses for your high school. But what is a core course? A core course is a course that qualifies for high school graduation in one or more of the following subject areas: English, math, science, social studies, foreign language, or comparative religion or philosophy. Comparative religion is basically courses like world religion. Courses like Bible or Christian theology, the NCAA cannot accept because they're considered doctrinal in nature. The other thing about core courses, they have to be 4-year college preparatory. They need to prepare you for a 4-year college education. The courses need to be taught at or above your high school's regular academic level, so not remedial or basic. For math, your math courses need to be at the level of Algebra 1 or higher. And lastly, your courses need to be taught by a qualified teacher or instructor. Now, many of you are probably taking some non-traditional courses. What does the NCAA consider as being non-traditional courses? We look at courses taught through the internet, whether online or virtual, distance learning, independent study, individualized review or instruction, correspondence courses, computer software programs. Most popularly, we see Plato, E2020, NovaNet, stuff like that, or other similar means. Now, the NCAA can accept some non-traditional courses, but not all. So make sure you follow these guidelines when considering taking a non-traditional course. Make sure the non-traditional program or course has ongoing access between the instructor and the student. There must be a defined time period for completion, for example, 6 weeks minimum to complete the course. That's just an example. These courses should be clearly identified as non-traditional courses on your high school transcript, and they must be core courses and 4-year college preparatory in nature. So they need to be comparable in length, content, and rigor to classes that you would take in a traditional classroom setting. Now remember how I talked about the important part of graduating in 8 semesters for Division I purposes? This is the reason why. So Division I has a rule that we can only use coursework taken in the first 4 years or 8 semesters of high school. And if you graduate on time with your class, say your class graduates on June 1st, if you graduate on June 1st and you need an additional course, graduating on time allows you to take an additional course to help you become eligible to play sports at the Division I school in the fall. Now, the problem happens if you don't graduate on time. Again, for example, June 1st with your class, say you graduate instead on August 31st. That's not graduating on time, and we can only use courses completed by the end of your senior year when your class graduates, so June 1st in this example. So where this really affects students is if you go 5 years of high school, say you had to repeat a year of high school, we can't use that 5th year. We actually can't use anything past the 4th year of high school. So if you are having to repeat a grade level, ensure that you're meeting your requirements within the first 4 years of high school. Now, Division II is definitely different. For Division II, there is no on-time graduation requirement. In fact, the NCAA Eligibility Center will review all coursework completed prior to enrolling full-time into any college or university. So if you do go 5 years of high school and you want to go to a Division II school, we will look at using all 5 years of high school and any coursework completed prior to enrolling full-time into college. So what are these requirements you have to meet to become eligible? Well, you have to graduate from high school. Got that. Complete NCAA approved courses. Okay. Earn a minimum required core course grade point average, or GPA, and earn a required SAT or ACT sum score. We'll look at the GPA and ACT and SAT sum score requirements in a moment. Note though, we don't take your overall cumulative GPA. We configure our own GPA based on the courses that we can accept, those NCAA approved courses, which you can access on our website for your school. One thing to note is the NCAA Eligibility Center tries to do 2 evaluations for you. One during your senior year, which is based on any coursework completed prior to the start of your senior year, so 9th through 11th grade year. And then we do another evaluation after you graduate and we receive your final transcript with proof of graduation. But during the preliminary evaluation in your senior year, based on your first 3 years of coursework, there is an opportunity for you to become eligible before you graduate. How do you do this? Well, you don't have to meet the same requirements for both divisions, but you have to have a pretty good GPA and SAT or ACT sum score. So for Division I, you need 3 years of English, 2 years of math, 2 years of science. Above and beyond those requirements, you then need an additional 2 years of English, math, or science, and then 5 additional courses in any area. So that could be 5 additional courses in social studies or foreign language or philosophy, or maybe you took some additional math or science. Those can be used in that area. For Division I, in those 14 core courses, you need to have a minimum core GPA of a 3.0 or higher, and a minimum SAT score of 900. That's math and critical reading only. We don't accept the writing portion. And then a base sum score of a 75 on the ACT. That number is really high for the ACT, isn't it? We'll discuss in a little bit why that number is so high. Now for Division II early academic certification students who have the evaluation in their senior year need to meet 12 core courses. Those 12 core courses need to be 3 years in English, 2 years in math, 2 years in science, and then 5 additional core courses in any area. So again, that can be from social studies, foreign language, comparative religion, or additional courses in English, math, or science. For Division II in those 12 core courses, you need to have still a 3.0 GPA or higher, and a minimum SAT score of 1,000, again, no writing, that's just math and critical reading, or a minimum sum score of 85 on the ACT. And again, we'll discuss how that number is configured. For those students who do not meet the early academic certification requirements, your next opportunity to become eligible is after you graduate and we receive your final transcript with proof of graduation from your high school. So the regular Division I requirements are 16 core courses completed prior to graduating. That requires 4 years of English, 3 years of math, Algebra 1 or higher, 2 years of science. Now, one of those 2 years should have a lab component to it, like biology lab, if your school offers it. Above and beyond those above requirements, you need 1 additional year of English, math, or science, 2 years of social studies, and then 4 years of additional courses from any area above, so English, math, science, social studies, or foreign language, comparative religion, or philosophy. And again, comparative religion is like world religions. Now, Division I operates on a sliding scale. So again, the NCAA configures our own GPA for you based on your 16 core courses. And you'll see that this is just a small version of the sliding scale. The whole sliding scale can be found on our website at eligibilitycenter.org under the Resources tab. But looking at this brief version of the sliding scale, you'll notice something. The higher your core GPA in your 16 core courses, the lower the required SAT or ACT sum score. And vice versa. The lower your core GPA in your 16 core courses, the higher the required SAT or ACT sum score. So for example, let's say you have a 2.1 in your 16 core courses we can use for Division I. Looking at the sliding scale, you'll see with a 2.1, if you move your eyes to the right, it shows that you need a 970 SAT score. Again, that's the critical reading and math sections only, not the writing, or an ACT sum score of an 82. Now, on the other hand, let's say you have a 3.5 core GPA in your 16 core courses. If you find 3.5 on the core GPA section of the scale, move your eyes to the right, you'll see that you only need a 420 combined SAT score. Yes, that's both critical reading and math added together. That needs to equal 420. And the ACT sum score requirement for 3.5 is a 39. Now, for those of you who are wanting to go to a Division I school in fall 2016 or later, so that's the current sophomores right now, requirements for Division I are going to change. This is so important, so pay attention. The summary of the changes that will take place for those of you enrolling in fall of 2016 at a Division I school, you saw on the other sliding scale that you only needed a 2.0 core GPA in your 16 core courses, as long as you had the required test score, to be eligible to compete. Now, for those of you enrolling in fall of 2016, your minimum core GPA in the 16 core courses needs to be a 2.3 or higher to compete. It still has a corresponding SAT or ACT score, which we'll look at in a moment here. The other change is there's a slight increase in the GPA test score index, the sliding scale we just looked at. And one of the biggest changes is that you will have 10 core courses locked in or required before beginning your senior year. We'll go a little bit more detail into this. So, the other thing that Division I is doing starting in the fall of 2016 is there will be 3 different outcomes to your evaluation. You can be a qualifier, which means that you can compete, receive athletics aid or scholarship, and practice your first year at a Division I school. The next option, if you don't meet all the requirements, is you can become an academic redshirt, which means you can receive athletics aid or scholarship in your first year at the Division I school, and you can practice the first semester at the Division I school. The Division I school will determine whether or not you can practice the second semester based on your first semester grades and credits at that school. Finally, nobody wants this. You could be a non-qualifier. That means you just don't meet the requirements at all, and you can't receive any athletics aid or scholarship, practice, or compete your first year. Also note, there are some Division I schools out there that have rules. If you come in as a non-qualifier, you can never participate for their school or any school in their conference. So it's very serious to make sure that you're meeting the requirements. So, for those of you enrolling in the fall of 2016, what will a full Division I qualifier look like? Those of you who can compete and practice and receive scholarships from a Division I school. You still need to meet the 16 core course requirement that we just went over. Again, that's 4 years in English, 3 years in math, Algebra 1 or higher, 2 years in science, 1 year of English, math, or science above and beyond what we just saw above, 2 years of social studies, and 4 years additional from areas above, English, math, science, social studies, or foreign language, philosophy, or comparative religion. Now again, as we just mentioned, that minimum required GPA has to be 2.3 in those 16 core courses in order to compete. And it may be higher depending on what your SAT or ACT test score is. This new sliding scale is also available on eligibilitycenter.org under our resources page. But just kind of a brief overview here. For example, let's say you have a 2.5 core course GPA. That requires an 820 SAT or a 68 sum score ACT. Or let's say you have a 640 on the SAT or 53 sum score on the ACT. That requires a core course GPA of a 2.95. We'll look at a visual here in a moment to get you a better idea of what this means. The other thing that you need to do if you want to become a Division I full qualifier if you're enrolling in the fall of 2016 or later is you have to meet these 10 core courses that are locked in at the start of your senior year. What does this mean? So what this means is, as I mentioned, we do an evaluation during your senior year called a preliminary evaluation, and we look at your first 3 years of high school. During the first 3 years of high school, you must have 10 core courses completed. Those core courses, remember, have to be chosen off of your high school's list of NCAA courses, which you can find on our website. Now, 10 of those courses, 7 must be in the areas of English, math, or science. I'm going to say that one more time. So 10 of these courses that you need locked in at the start of your senior year, 7 must be in the areas of English, math, or science. Why is this so important? Well, some students like to take their senior year to repeat courses to try to earn higher grades and replace courses they may have failed to become eligible. You will no longer be able to do that and replace those 10 core courses that are locked in. Those 10 core courses are locked in stone, so make sure you have those requirements by the start of your senior year. Here's the new sliding scale that we talked about for the Division I 2016 changes. So you'll see the old scale on the left, the one that we went through prior on another slide. Now the new scale you'll see has a slight increase. So for instance, with a 2.1 on the new scale, you need a minimum 980 on the SAT. If you look at the old scale with a 2.1, you need a 970. So you'll see it's just a small increase. For instance, on the new scale with a 2.45, you need a 70 ACT. On the old scale with a 2.45, you also need a 70. So there's no change there. It's very minimal. Now, as I mentioned, another option for Division I 2016 enrollees is becoming an academic redshirt. So if you don't meet the full Division I requirements, the next best thing you can become is an academic redshirt, where you can receive scholarship at the Division I school and practice for the first semester there. You still must meet the 16 core courses that we went over, but instead of having that minimum GPA of a 2.3, you can go lower than that. You can have a minimum GPA of anywhere between 2.0 and 2.299 in your 16 core courses. You still need to have the corresponding SAT or ACT test score, though. The other thing with the academic redshirts, we just talked about those important 10 core courses locked in. If you fail to meet the required 10 core courses prior to the start of your 7th semester, which is the start of your senior year, 7 of those courses being in English, math, or science, you will be allowed to retake core courses in your 7th or 8th semester, which will help you meet the academic redshirt requirements. But the thing is, if you don't meet those 10 core courses locked in, even if you have a 4.0 GPA in 16 core courses, without those 10 courses locked in, 7 being in English, math, or science, you cannot be a full qualifier. So, as we mentioned, for academic redshirt, you can get below a 2.3 and not have the 10 core courses locked in. You still must have your 16 core courses in the correct breakdown, but for instance, if you have a 2.2 in those 16 core courses, you need to have a 940 on the SAT. If you have a 2.0, you need to have a minimum ACT sum score of an 86. So let's say you have a 2.5 core course GPA, but you only have a 47 ACT sum score. You'll see that doesn't add up. So make sure your GPA and your SAT and ACT test score align on the sliding scale. So again, if you meet these requirements for the academic Redshirt, getting the 16 core courses, meeting the correct GPA and test score, but not having the 10 core courses locked in, 7 being in English, math, or science, you can receive athletic scholarship during your first year at an NCAA Division I school, and you can practice your first semester. And then your college will determine if you can practice your second semester based on your first semester grades and credits. So what if you don't meet either set of requirements? If you don't meet either set of requirements, the full qualifier or the academic Redshirt, you are deemed a non-qualifier. A non-qualifier cannot receive athletics aid during the first year at an NCAA Division I college, and you cannot practice or compete. And as I mentioned, some Division I schools, if you're a non-qualifier, you can never play for that school or another school in their conference. It is so important that you focus on your academics as well as your athletics. Now, Division II. Division II also requires 16 core courses, but the breakdown is just slightly different. Division II requires 3 years of English, whereas Division I requires 4. Division II requires 2 years of math, Algebra 1 or higher. Division I requires 3 years of math. Division II requires 2 years of science. 1 year should be a lab if your high school offers it. But then Division III also requires 3 additional years of English, math, or science, above and beyond what's listed above. You also need 2 years of social studies and 4 years of additional courses, which can be from English, math, science, social studies, or foreign language, comparative religion, or philosophy. Remember to check your high school's NCAA list of courses to see exactly which courses we will accept. What's also different about Division II is there's no sliding scale. There's just certain minimum GPA and test score requirements you have to meet. For instance, you have to earn a minimum of a 2.0 GPA or better in your 16 core courses. That's it. And for your SAT score, you need a minimum SAT of 820. Again, that's critical reading and math only, no writing. And then an ACT sum score of a 68. We're getting close to figuring out why this ACT number is so high, so stay tuned. Again, when you take the SAT or ACT, make sure you enter our code of 9999 when you register to take the test to ensure you have all of your SAT or ACT scores sent to us. Test scores on high school transcripts will not be used. And remember, if you forget to do it at the time of the test, be sure to contact SAT or ACT after the fact and give them our code of 9999 and have those test scores sent to us. Here it is. How do we configure the test scores? So for instance, with SAT, the reason why you want to have all of your test scores sent in to us is we will configure the highest score using all scores sent in to us. What does that mean? So let's say you take 2 SAT scores and you have those both sent in to our code of 9999. You'll see on the first score, 10 of 2012, your verbal score is a 470, and that's higher than your other score. We'll take that higher score out of the 2 tests. And then on your other SAT, you earn a higher math score of 420. We're going to take the highest math and the highest verbal scores out of all test scores you send in to us, add those together to create a new high super score for you, in this case of an 890. You can see how that total score is much higher than either of the other separate scores that you send in to us. But that new high super score is what we will use in your evaluation. With ACT, what we do with the sum score, you still want to have all of them sent in to us, but we take the highest math, English, science, and reading scores and add those 4 high numbers together to create that large sum score that you saw. So again, have all of your test scores into us and we'll configure the highest score for you and use that in your evaluation to help you become eligible. I mentioned on the onset about Division III. Unlike Divisions I and II, there are no initial eligibility requirements for the Division III schools that's uniform across the board. You want to check with your Division III school that you're interested in to find out what their requirements are. The NCAA Eligibility Center does not perform certifications for students going to Division III schools, so you don't even need to worry about registering with us. All right, let's get into the amateurism. The amateurism, again, is your sports participation section. When you register, you will be prompted to fill out questions regarding your sports participation that occurs outside of your normal high school season. If you have any questions as you go through the amateur questionnaire, we have a great FAQ, frequently asked questions section on the resources page that can help you. There's also links within the My Sports Participation section that you can hover over to give you hints about what we're talking about, or you can always call us to get clarification on exactly what do we mean by a question. So once you are certified from an academic and amateur perspective, you may practice, compete, and receive athletics aid, which is where you want to be, right? Lastly, we have great resources, as I mentioned. You can always go to our website, eligibilitycenter.org. We also have another website for the Division I 2016 requirements that are coming. That's 2.3.org. You'll see the poster in the background promoting that as well. You also want to access the guide for the college-bound student athlete, or the quick reference guide and the initial eligibility brochure that all give you information on the requirements that you have to meet. So I want to thank you all for attending, and I will now open it up for questions. We have a question. Do Division II colleges offer scholarships? Yes, they do. Division I and II schools both offer scholarships. It is up to the Division I and II schools to decide, though, where and to whom they want to give scholarships to. We have a question from an international student. Thank you for dialing in here. International students, you still have to go through the same process, register with us on eligibilitycenter.org, and meet the same requirements for Division I and II. If you have any questions, though, as you go through the process, we do have an international staff that's dedicated to answering your questions. So please feel free to call us, and we'd be more than happy to help you out. The number that anybody can call to reach us for help is 877-262-1492. Another clarifying question regarding the Division I requirements for fall of 2016. Yes, that does. August 2016 is considered the fall there. The official effective date is August 1st, 2016 for those new Division I requirements to go into effect. So it's any student enrolling at a Division I school, August 1st, 2016 or later. Another question is SAT and or ACT required to go to a Division I college? Yes, not only is it required for the Eligibility Center to meet your requirements to play sports, but for you to be admitted into a Division I or II school, you must have taken the SAT or ACT and met those admission requirements. That's one thing to note. I'm glad that there's this question. So you have the eligibility requirements you have to meet through the NCAA to play sports. That's all it's for. But you also must separately be admitted into that Division I or II school you want to attend by adhering to the Division I or II admission requirements. So make sure you're also looking at your prospective school's admission requirements to make sure you meet those requirements as well. And part of those requirements to get into college is to take an SAT or ACT score and achieve a certain score required by the college. Yes, the scores that are listed on the charts regarding the sliding scale, I believe, for Division I, those are all for the eligibility requirements. So definitely make sure you're looking at what your GPA is and your 16 core courses for Division I and II. For Division I, go to the sliding scale and look to see what your required SAT score or ACT score would be, or your required GPA, depending on what your SAT or ACT score is. Your school rank, it's a good question. Your school rank doesn't matter with the NCAA because we configure our own GPA based on your 16 core courses for Division I and II. So your school rank does not make a difference as we're looking at your transcripts. The cost for registering for domestic students, there's a one-time $70 fee. For international students, it's a one-time $120 fee. Now, for domestic students, if you were eligible for an SAT or ACT fee waiver to waive that fee for the SAT or ACT, you are also eligible to receive a fee waiver for the NCAA Eligibility Center. When you register, the payment is the last section of your registration, and there you can check a box that you are eligible to receive a fee waiver based on whether or not you received one for the SAT or ACT. You must then talk with your high school guidance counselor to have them submit that fee waiver for you through the high school portion of our website on eligibilitycenter.org. As far as the requirements to get into each school, you really need to go to those schools' websites. So if you're interested in a particular university or college, be sure to go to that college or university's website and look at their admissions requirements, and it will show you exactly what you need to meet to be admitted into that school. But remember, if you're wanting to play sports there at the Division I or II school, you also must meet our requirements as well. One more time with the ACT as far as why is that number so high. What we do is there's 4 sections of the ACT: English, reading, math, and science. Typically, those 4 numbers are averaged, and that's why you have a number maybe in the teens or 20s, maybe 30s. But what the NCAA does is we add all 4 numbers together. So we add your English plus your reading plus your math plus your science, and that gives us the overall big score that we have. And again, if you send in multiple ACT scores or SAT, we'll take the highest number out of each subject area, add those together, and create a new super score for you. Some other questions that we get on a regular basis are, what is an unofficial visit and what is an official visit? So, an unofficial visit you can take any time during high school. You basically just go to the campus of the Division I or II school you're interested in, check it out, maybe talk with the coach, tell them that you're interested in playing sports at their school, look at the facilities. You can do that on your own dime, so pay for it yourself, and at any time. That's much different than an official visit. For the most part, official visits start the first day of your senior year in high school, and that's where a Division I or II school invites you to come onto their campus, take a tour, meet the coaches, look at the facilities. The Division I or II school pays for you to go on those visits. Now, there's certain limits to how many visits you can have for Division I. For Division I, you can have 5 visits total, 1 per Division I college you attend. For Division II, they're unlimited, so you can go on as many Division II official visits as you would like. And the unlimited amount of Division II official visits do not affect your Division I visits of 5 maximum. So as I mentioned, that applies to most sports. If you're interested in recruiting rules, definitely go to our website, eligibilitycenter.org, access this, the guide for the college-bound student athlete, and in the back, there are recruiting rules by grade level that tells you what the coaches can and cannot do. So be sure to look that up, and that tells you when the coaches can call you, when you can call the coach, stuff like that. I have a question here. How many years does college take? It just depends on the student. Usually 4, sometimes 5, but it can be longer depending on how long you need to take. Now for eligibility, you only have 4 years of eligibility once you enroll into college. So that's 4 years to play sports. The other question we get is, what is the purpose of registering with the Eligibility Center? Well, as I mentioned on the onset, you must meet certain requirements in order to play sports at a Division I or II school. And to find out whether or not you've met those requirements, you have to register with us, send in 2 transcripts, one after your junior year and one after your senior year, along with your SAT or ACT test scores, and have a Division I or II school recruit you, put you on their request list as we call it, and then we'll do an evaluation to determine if you're eligible. Another frequent question we get are whether plus and minus grades are used in the evaluation. So if you get a B+, is the B+ used? Or if you get a D-, is the minus used? No, they are not. We take off the plus and minus and we just use the regular grades, A, B, C, D, no plus or minus. The other common question we get are whether pass-fail grades are used. So if you take a course and you get a pass in it, will the NCAA use it? The answer is yes. We will use it as long as there is credit on the transcript for that course, and that course is listed on your NCAA list of approved core courses for your high school. Now, the thing to know about the pass grade is when we see that on your transcript, we'll award your high school's lowest passing grade, which is usually a D. So, although you pass the class, the policy is to use your high school's lowest passing grade, so you'll probably get a D for that course. Another common question we get are whether junior high school or middle school courses can be used in your evaluation. And the answer is yes, as long as you're taking high school level courses in middle school or junior high school, and those courses appear on your high school's list of approved core courses and are on your transcript with grade and credit, we can use those courses to help you become eligible. So check with your high school to see whether or not they are able to put your middle school or junior high school coursework that you took for high school credit on your transcript. Another common question we get are whether or not repeated courses can be used. So right now, for students enrolling in Division I prior to fall of 2016 and any time for Division II, we can use the higher grade out of repeated courses. But before you go down that road, ask yourself two questions. How am I taking these courses, and when am I taking these courses? The how is important because we talked about non-traditional courses and the fact that the NCAA does not accept every non-traditional course. If you're taking non-traditional courses through a separate non-traditional online program, let's say, different than your high school, you can also go to our website under resources where you look up your high school's list of NCAA courses. You can look up online programs list of NCAA courses. And if they're approved, they will have a list that you can choose from that can be used towards your eligibility. If your high school itself offers a non-traditional program, when you go and you look up your high school's list of NCAA courses, there's an additional information box that tells you whether or not the program for your high school is approved. If that information box is blank, that means that we haven't approved or reviewed the program for your high school. So, when considering how you're going to repeat a course, if you decide to do it in a regular traditional classroom setting, that's great. That's what we recommend. That's the best way to get it done. Make sure that the course is on your high school's list of courses and that it appears on the transcript with a grade and credit. But if you decide to go the non-traditional route, make sure you take the course through an approved non-traditional program, whether it's outside of your high school or within your high school. The other question to ask yourself is when? When I repeat a course, can it be used anytime? Well, if it's taken within the first 8 semesters, right now for Division I, yes, we can consider it as long as it's taken through an approved avenue. For Division II, no matter when you take the repeated course, as long as it's done prior to full-time enrollment into college, we can look at using that as well. Now for Division I, if you decide to take the repeated course after you graduate from high school, we can only use it as long as you graduate on time in 4 years with your class. So if your class graduates on June 1st, you must graduate on June 1st in order to take an additional course after you graduate, completed prior to full-time enrollment into college, to try to be used for initial eligibility purposes. Now for the fall 2016 enrollees, remember those 10 core courses locked in, 7 being in English, math, or science? You cannot use your senior year or the summer after your senior year if you graduate on time to replace any of those lower grades because those grades are locked in. So keep that in mind. The last thing that I will bring up, if there are any high school guidance counselors or administrators watching, there are tons of resources if you are unfamiliar with this process. You can go to our website, eligibilitycenter.org, and there is a section specifically for high school administrators. We have a fabulous resource page with lots of information on anything that you would want to know about our process. This program isn't for a specific college. This is for the requirements you have to meet in order to become eligible at a Division I or II school to play sports. Just another question that came through. I wanted to clarify that for everybody. But for high schools, again, coaches, high school administrators, The other thing that you can do is visit our website, a website called NF, as in Frank, so nfhslearn.org. We have an Eligibility Center course on there that you can take to find out more about the requirements and your responsibilities in helping students. And finally, the other website, as I mentioned, was 2.3.org. Again, I really appreciate everybody paying attention and tuning into this very important information if you're wanting to participate in sports at a Division I or II school. And as you go through the process, do not hesitate to contact us if you have any questions. We're more than happy to help. Good luck!